Memo written by Secretary Rubio explaining the law, even seemingly acknowledging that Khalil has not been charged with any crime. Yet she agreed with DHS that she did not need to look any further than this authority. Khalil addressed the court today saying he had been sent thousands of miles away from his family and said he hoped that the urgency afforded to his case is also done so for other students. We also heard this statement from his wife, who is set to give birth to their child any day now, saying, "Today's decision feels like a devastating blow to our family. The government reiterated the same baseless racist claims about my husband that we have heard time and time again." Now, the judge has given his immigration lawyers about 2 weeks to file for additional relief, figure out if they want to appeal this decision. And of course, we do have that federal court case playing out in a courtroom in New Jersey, so we do not expect any immediate deportation in this case. Phil?
All right, Armando, thank you. Still to come here, confirmed measles cases in the U.S. climbing to more than 700 nationwide. Our medical contributor, Dr. Alok Patel, is here in studio with what you need to know.
The news never stops. We are here in Israel, a nation at war.
We appeared to be gunfire. The former president rushed off the stage.
Hurricane Helene ravaging the coastline of Florida.
It's moving really fast, screaming across the state.
And that's why ABC News Live never stops.
Taking you to the center of the story.
As news breaks live.
We hear those small arms fire around us.
We're right on the border between Ukraine and Russia.
ABC News Live is there for you at the start of your day, all morning live.
ABC News Live, right there, as events unfold across the day. ABC News Live, breaking down the day's top stories.
Lyle and Eric Menendez, there is new evidence in this case.
ABC News Live Prime going there, wherever the story is.
Are you going to build it back up?
And ABC News Live lighting up the weekends.
With breaking news and all the latest pop headlines.
Happy Oscars Sunday.
A lot to watch for tonight.
ABC News Live.
Because the news never stops.
Now you can listen to a podcast version of Nightline, available free wherever you listen.
Tonight, the showdown that will reach your kitchen tables and homes as the China trade war heats up. What will it cost you? And will it all be worth it in the end? World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
ᗷᖇEᗩKITG seemingly had it all until she fell in love with this man and his mission.
How does this seemingly normal lady next door become this doomsday killer?
Now ᗷᖇEᗩKITG on trial again, this time for the suspicious death of her fourth husband.
A family tragedy is not a crime. It's a tragedy.
The Doomsday Mom Murders. ᗷᖇEᗩKITG back on trial. Now streaming on Hulu.
ABC's David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. More Americans watch World News Tonight with David Muir than any other newscast.
Time now for our weekly medical rundown with ABC News medical contributor and pediatrician at Stanford Children's Health, Dr. Alok Patel. He's got several important stories for us, starting with the growing concern over the rising measles cases across the country. We're talking about 700 cases, 24 states.
Over 700.
This is unusual.
This is unusual, and this doesn't have to be that way because we have a vaccine that's over 97% effective at preventing these cases altogether. Phil, we're approaching 24 states. At the way things are going, we're likely going to see more states and more cases pop up. And as a reminder to everyone, children under the age of 5 are at the highest risk of getting a complication and getting hospitalized, and we are seeing that in increasing numbers. So very important that we spread the word out there. People know if they're exposed, and you get vaccinated if you haven't done so already, and get your kids their shots as well.
Yeah, this was virtually eradicated, and now we're seeing it go back.
We're seeing creep at butt. We're at risk of losing that status.
Most of the patients are unvaccinated. Is that what we're seeing?
Overwhelmingly, most patients, about 97%, are unvaccinated.
Okay. So there's a study that shows the shingles vaccine may protect your brain. Can it really help lower the risk of dementia?
That is what this study suggests. In this study, researchers found that adults who got the shingles vaccine, preventing that nasty virus and that reinfection, I should say, of the virus, had a 20% lower risk of dementia after 7 years. Unclear what happens after those 7 years, but when it comes to dementia, this is very promising news. It also, Phil, speaks to the fact that viruses can play a part in long-term neurodegenerative disease. Now, I know that you're under the age of 50. The shingles vaccine, preventing that nasty virus and that reinfection, I should say, of the virus, had a 20% lower risk of dementia after 7 years. Unclear what happens after those 7 years, but when it comes to dementia, this is very promising news. It also, Phil, speaks to the fact that viruses can play a part in long-term neurodegenerative disease. Now, I know that you're under the age of 50. You haven't gotten the shingles vaccine, but it's recommended for adults above the age of 50. This is yet another reason to really look at what viruses can do and make sure you get those shots.
So my question is, if people hear this and you're supposed to get the shot when you're 50, are people going to want to get the shot before they get to 50, and are they going to be allowed to? Because if they hear, hey, this could help.
And the researchers were very clear about that. It's hard to tell if this was specifically related to the shingles vaccine or if there's the fact that people who are likely going to get their vaccines also live healthy lifestyles as well. So they're more likely to eat a healthy diet, work out, and get some sleep as well. But it's still an important step forward when it comes to preventing this illness.
Got it. Okay, spring is here, pollen counts climbing. What's the latest on why and who is most likely to be affected? I've already started sneezing more.
Listen, I am one of the millions of Americans who gets hit badly with symptoms during allergy season. So what this study is talking about right now is the way that climate change, a warming climate, is actually increasing our allergic season over the last couple decades. Our pollinating season of plants has gone up by almost 3 weeks. Because, Phil, when it's warmer outside, you have a shorter freeze cycle. But also, warmer temperatures and more CO2 can make plants produce pollen that's more allergenic on its own as well. So this is yet another way that we're seeing climate change affect public health, which not only affects all of us, but also really takes a toll when it comes to work hours, costing our country billions of dollars every single year. So if you don't like allergies, you better not like warming temperatures.
I don't like either one of them. All right, it's Friday. What's your weekend prescription?
My weekend prescription comes down to something that you and I are probably pretty good at, and that's chilling out and relaxing a little bit. So this is a study that shows that...
I have a master's in it.
I know. I want to do it right now. I'll just say, I'll sleep on this desk right now. But relaxation, even a small amount, was shown to drop your systolic blood pressure. That's the top number by up to 10 points. Diastolic, bottom number, by up to 5 points. And relaxation could be anything from meditation, mindfulness, yoga, martial arts, one of my personal favorites. Anything that involves listening to music, jamming out to classic rock. Anything that takes you away from the rigors and the stresses of the week can lower your blood pressure.
And I'm guessing it doesn't have to be for a long period of time. Short periods of time, like a 5-minute meditation or something like that.
This doesn't replace obvious lifestyle changes. Right. And this is not necessarily shown to be a long-term change, but even 5 minutes, lunch break. Don't think that you always have to be glued into work. When you're eating your lunch, taking a walk outside, listen to some tunes, chill out, step away from the stresses, and your blood pressure will thank you.
All right, Dr. Patel, always good to see you.
I will call you and we'll jam on some classic rock.
Yeah, let's do it. I love that you're in studio.
Meds.
Good to see you. All right, much more ahead here on ABC News Live. In today's big story, more market turmoil capping off a historically volatile week on Wall Street. What the White House is saying about President Trump's tariff plan and the new retaliation from China. And in our spotlight, the new high-stakes hearing in the case of the man mistakenly deported to that mega prison in El Salvador. Our panel weighs in on the push to bring him home and what lawyers for the Trump administration are saying about it. It's next.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed.
Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas,
Edinburgh, Scotland.
From Poland once again tonight. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw.
Do you think you'll ever be able to go back home?
We're heading to a small community outside of Mexico City.
Splintered houses and splintered lives. The magnitude of the devastation. You're streaming ABC News Live. Reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi. Santa Fe, New Mexico. Raleigh, North Carolina. The U.S. Capitol. Mayfield, Kentucky.
Minneapolis.
Mexico. Tongass National Forest, Alaska.
Getting you behind the stories as they happen. Giving you a front row seat to our world as it plays out in real time, live.
ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC News Live weeknights, America's most honored streaming news program, only on ABC News Live. Streaming free right now wherever you stream your news.
I'm the doctor.
Doctor what?
Just the doctor.
All right then. I'm called the nurse.
Good team. You left Earth.
It's been 2 hours.
It was 6 months ago.
You need to get me home.
We don't need to rush, because
this is a time machine.
Boom. I promised that I would keep you safe.
But you can't promise.
I can. I will. I do.
Whenever news breaks.
We are here in Israel, a nation at war.
In Rolling Fork, this tornado tore through this town.
Lewiston, Maine.
The scene of a horrific mass shooting.
From the scene of that deadly missile strike.
Wherever the story is.
We're going to take you there.
ABC News Live.
They're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live, streaming free everywhere.
Reporting from Toronto, where that plane made that crash landing and all passengers survived, I'm Gio Benitez. You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
Because the news never stops.
China hits back at the U.S. with a new round of retaliatory tariffs as America's trade war upends world markets. I'm Phil Lipoff here in New York. In today's big story, more stock market swings capping off a historically volatile week on Wall Street. What the White House is saying about President Trump's tariff plan and potential trade talks with Beijing. And in our spotlight, a new high-stakes hearing in the case of the man mistakenly deported to a mega prison in El Salvador. Our panel weighs in on the push to bring him home and what lawyers for the Trump administration are saying today. But we are going to begin with our big story. Stocks seesawing to close out a historically tumultuous week on Wall Street. President Trump's tariff war rattles markets all across the world. The Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, all ending the day on a high note, but still down since the start of the month. It comes as China slaps new tariffs on U.S. goods, raising them to 125% in retaliation for the U.S. placing 145% tariffs on Chinese imports. China is America's third biggest trading partner. I want to bring in Jared Bernstein right now. He is the former Biden White House chair, the Council of Economic Advisors. Sir, thanks so much for taking the time. I want to focus at first on what this means for everyday Americans. We know what it means for investors and people who have money to ride it out. But for the everyday American, new numbers from the University of Michigan, a survey there, show consumer sentiment is down now for the fourth straight month. What does that trend tell you about how Americans feel about the overall economy?
They're very nervous. They're very stressed. We already knew Americans were quite stressed about prices, and they get that these tariffs of these magnitude on so many goods coming into our country are going to mean considerably higher prices on so much of what they purchase. Clothing, cars, pretty much anything you can think about at Walmart or Target or Amazon, which is a lot of spending, particularly for middle and low income people. A tariff is a tax. It is a sales tax on imports, and it cuts into the income of the folks we're talking about, the tune of thousands of dollars.
Inflation, on the other hand, is somewhat down from February in the latest Labor Department report. Is that a signal of demand weakening?
It's a great question. I think it probably is a signal of demand weakening. And if you get into the guts of the report, you can see some weaker demand in hotels and airfares. I think foreign travel is probably taking a hit, and that's certainly related to all the ups and downs in the last few weeks. But remember, these reports are pretty backwards looking in terms of their timing, whereas the stock market, that tends to be more forward looking. So lots of volatility ahead. And my expectation, a very firm expectation, if these tariffs stay on, is that they will show up as more inflation pressures.
The U.S. trade rep says President Trump is not negotiating with China on tariffs at this point. If you're the U.S. government, and that's where the U.S. government stands right now, what's your next move?
Your next move is to negotiate. And in fact, the reason we've got an up market today is because the White House is making sounds about potentially negotiating. And so, look, Trump has already shown that he has a pain threshold. When the bond market went kind of crazy earlier in the week, you saw the president back down. So I actually think there is room for negotiation here. And frankly, there better be. Because while China does engage in unfair trade, for either side to set a tariff north of 100%, that's just much too big a shock to either economy. And, you know, it's called a trade war for a reason. Wars, they're bad for both sides.
Well, the president has said the market volatility is short-term pain. What would you need to see as a sign that these tariffs are actually accomplishing what he wants to accomplish?
Nothing that we could possibly see in any realistic time frame, to just be straight up with you, Phil. I mean, the problem with this is that tariffs and these kinds of sweeping tariffs have never been shown to have the effect that the president keeps talking about, which is bringing manufacturing jobs back to this country. He tried this in Trump 1. It actually hurt the manufacturing sector. Now, why is that? It's actually apropos that you're showing these pictures of trade coming in. Many U.S. manufacturers use imports in what they produce. They import inputs into their manufacturing process. And so these tariffs make it more expensive for manufacturers to produce here, and it actually hurts the very people you're supposedly helping. So I just think this is pain now, pain later. The markets get this, investors get this, some of Trump's billionaires' friends kind of got it last week, and certainly consumers have been way ahead of everybody in understanding this scenario.
All right, Jared Bernstein, thanks for your expertise, sir. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
All right, now let's bring in our big story panel. Joining us today, ABC News contributor and Sirius XM radio host Mike Muse, ABC News contributor and former assistant U.S. attorney John Katko, ABC News political contributor and former U.S. senator from North Dakota Heidi Heitkamp, and former Republican congressman from New York Anthony D'Esposito. Anthony, I want to begin with you. For years, government bonds have been a pretty steady investment. Now rates are trending upward. Why is that such a key indicator, looking at how the economy is reacting to these tariffs?
Well, I think for one thing, everyone's saying, thank God it's Friday, right? But secondly, listen, I think that there's volatility, and President Trump warned us of that. But it is concerning. I mean, the markets have been a roller coaster for the last week and a half. People are concerned about the tariffs, about what's going to happen the next day and the day after that. And as I mentioned, last week, and I will continue to say, I think one of the things that's critically important to President Trump and his administration to make sure that the American people stay calm and stay confident is over communication. I think he needs to communicate clearly and make sure that the American people understand the decisions that he's making, the changes that he's making, because that is the only way that the American people are going to understand day in and day out exactly what's happening. If they just watch the news and the markets without knowing exactly what's happening, it's going to lead to more fear and more volatility.
Heidi, if you're President Trump or President Xi, how do you come to the table and approach these negotiations? Because we're talking about two world superpowers, two powerful men, and really big tariffs. Where's the off-ramp here?
Well, I don't know. I think that it is basically a fight to see who's going to be world dominant. And the Chinese have sent some really strong signals. And they're now in a standoff waiting for one to call the other. You've got to remember that the United States imports are only from China are only 2% of the Chinese GDP and about 10% of what China exports across the world. And China has sent a message today that we've been around for 5,000 years. We're going to be around a lot longer, and we are not going to be bullied into coming to the table. And they're also on a charm offensive in Europe. And so Donald Trump has insulted our European allies. Let's see if he can recover from that and gather a coalition to put more pressure on China. But the bottom line is that China may see this as a pivot point for when they're going to be dominant in this space. And the United States is playing a game of chicken with China that we may lose. And I know that's not a favored position because everybody will say, oh, China needs us. Well, wait until we don't have fireworks or air conditioners or all the things that China export. And we've shut down total trade with China and there isn't any activity. Let me tell you, my state will be hurt greatly because they buy a lot of ag products. And so, I think that this game right now is a game of wait and see who's going to blink first. And I don't think Donald Trump is somebody who wants to do that, but he might have to get China to the table.
So having said that, John, who has the biggest bargaining power in this trade war, do you think, China or the U.S.?
Quite frankly, I think it's China, and I'll tell you why. The bonds. China owns a tremendous amount of our bonds. We have U.S. treasuries which fund our government. And China owns close to $1 trillion worth of those treasuries right now. If they decide to dump those treasuries on the market and depress the price, the cost of those treasuries goes up for the U.S. government at a time when they're trying to have tax cuts renew the tax cuts, and to fund the government, among other things. So they could really, if they wanted to get nasty, they could start dumping U.S. treasuries And that's what happened, why Trump did a 90-day pause a few days ago. U.S. Treasury costs started going up, and he got really nervous, and so he put a pause. So I think that they have that ace in their hole. And on top of that, I want to echo Heidi's sentiments. This was a fight that didn't need to happen, and the way he went about it, I think he's boxed the U.S. into a corner where he's either going to have to capitulate at some point or give up some things, or he's going to run us right into a serious problem here. And the other thing is the uncertainties in the market. The market is very uncertain. They don't like that, and that could force us into a recession as well. So I'm very concerned about those two things, the bonds and the uncertainty.
All right, so Mike, you're batting cleanup. After you hear all of that, what is a realistic way to de-escalate this trade war with China?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, literally and figuratively. What my sentiment has been is that China has shown itself that they are not afraid to retaliate. I remember Secretary Bessent stood outside the White House and he said that he doesn't think that foreign countries should retaliate and that it wouldn't be a good thing for them if they do retaliate. Well, China heard that and decided not to back down and decided to move forward with their retaliatory tariffs. They've also, too, been very adversarial in the way of mocking President Trump with these tariffs. And so by the two dynamics of Trump and Xi really bringing forward together these retaliatory tariffs amongst each other, I don't know where this exit ramp is. And unfortunately, it's going to be the cost to the American public and to consumers. What the exit outcomes of this election was, with the number one issue that Americans are voting for, was the cost of groceries. And if you think about the cost of groceries and you think about the cost of everyday living expenses, we're going to see that increase now with these tariffs. The idea that President Trump is asking these Americans to experiencing short-term gain, I just don't know how you reconcile that with those who voted him into office for economic relief at the grocery store would actually sit and want to make this sacrifice for a situation that really was a problem that was created under the Trump administration.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there, but don't go anywhere. Our panel is going to stick around. We hope you do, too. Coming up in our spotlight, a judge ruling in on the case of the Maryland man wrongly deported to El Salvador. Our panel weighs in on the new requirements imposed on the Trump administration as his family fights to get him back on American soil.
The news never stops.
From Tampa, we are here tonight as Hurricane Milton has just made landfall.
The surge just keeps coming up.
Right on the border between Ukraine and Russia.
We're in artillery position about 2 miles away from Gaza.
And ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
We're not far from where this rally took place, so just stick with us here.
Traveling with the president to the U.S.-Mexico border.
Here in London today,
off the coast of Gaza.
Downtown Tel Aviv, rockets or missiles coming in.
From the most devastating disaster in Hawaii. Some areas are still smoldering.
Wherever the story.
From the front lines,
the ruins of Rafah.
From the FBI.
Reporting from Capitol Hill.
In western Portugal.
Outside of Mexico City.
In Iceland. Let's go.
Here in France.
The eclipse across America.
Just stunning.
Unbelievable.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is.
Wherever the story is.
We're going to take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live. Streaming free everywhere because the news never stops.
It was a new romance that started off with such excitement.
Was she in love?
Yes.
She was.
Was it too good to be true?
She has no idea what truly lies ahead.
The child that she's currently pregnant with is his child.
Had a wife, beautiful kids.
She said, if you don't tell your wife, I will.
And then...
Oh my gosh, there's blood on the front seat of the car.
Bad Romance, the 2020 True Crime Limited Series, Tuesday night on ABC.
Monday morning, GMA gets giggly when the hosts of the mega hit podcast Giggly Squad are here live. Then Tuesday, Cameron Matheson shares his family's journey 3 months after losing his home to the LA fires on Good Morning America.
Are you on some kind of sex quest?
A sex quest? This is about how I feel, and I want to feel things.
Tell me what you see. Experience Mufasa the Lion King on Disney+.
Something beautiful awaits you. I feel it in here.
I'm Taka. I have a secret, Mufasa. I always wanted a brother.
Can I make one suggestion? Less drama, more meerkat.
It is your time, Mufasa.
Disney's Mufasa the Lion King, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG.
This friendship is my love story. You'll both move in with me. We never see each other.
We FaceTime every night.
I use a filter. It's barely even me.
What's going on? Do you think we're gonna gloss over the fact that you're the color of an old circus peanut?
Okay, you drive me crazy. But we're best friends. Yes, it's sexless and annoying, but what long-lasting love story is it?
Nightline. The stories that shape your world, that shape your life. Dramatic, stunning, empowering, jaw-dropping. The most powerful stories of our time. Nightline. On right after Kimmel and streaming on Hulu.
In today's Spotlight, the case of a Maryland man wrongly deported to El Salvador. The judge ruling that the Trump administration is now required to provide daily updates on its efforts to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the U.S. after he was sent to El Salvador because of an administrative error. I want to bring back my panel right now, Mike Muse, John Katko, Heidi Heitkamp, and Anthony D'Esposito. Mike, I'll begin with you. We want to show some new video just in of a repatriation flight from the U.S. landing in Venezuela today, returning 191 Venezuelan nationals as part of a bilateral deportation agreement. This is very different from the flight we saw land in El Salvador that Abrego Garcia was on. You say this is due process versus defiance. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, this is the interesting case study for us right now because of the fact of due process is one of the fundamentals that makes American democracy so special. What makes us the shining beacon on the hill is that everyone is afforded a due process. But when you send these individuals to these prisons in El Salvador under the suspicion of gang violence without actually having proven that there is, that erodes the fundamental dynamics of who we are as Americans, and feel that also too becomes into a slippery slope. So if this is allowed to a case that sets precedent where we're allowed to escape due process, what does it say for what could happen future down the road where individuals may not receive due process? What happens when you start, judging and stereotyping because individuals have a tattoo, then they must be part of a gang, or they have a tattoo that's similar to tattooed members of a gang? Then do we look at these individuals differently without having the process of due process? And so I really am a big believer of precedent that these cases set. And when I talk about defiance, these cases are going to go into the federal court system and to the Supreme Court. And so the defiance part is how will then now the Trump administration interpret the rulings of the federal court and to the Supreme Court, and then will they choose to use semantics to skate around, not having to abide by the rulings and opinions that these justices have laid down? So that is the duality between due process and defiance.
And John, with your prosecutor hat on, what's your take on this?
One of the worst nightmares for a prosecutor is to realize you got the wrong guy. And I think Anthony, as an investigator all those years with the NYPD, police department, and me as a federal organized crime prosecutor, that's my worst nightmare. But I can tell you, if it happens, the first thing you do is undo it, right? And you do it quickly and effectively. I will say, if someone's here illegally, it's a different story. But if you have status in the United States and it's clear that they got it wrong here, stop, drop, get it back, and just understand you made a mistake. That's what the American system is all about, and it kind of dovetails with just what Mike was just saying. We've got to do better, and when you make mistakes, you got to fix them and fix them fast.
Yeah, and I think part of the confusion is the government's attorney admitted that it was an error, and then they said they couldn't get him back. Heidi, you say that the fact that the Supreme Court even has to weigh in on this at all is wrong. How do you see this playing out?
I think John's absolutely right. This should have been taken care of weeks ago. And the more it's out there, the more frightened I think people become, and the more Americans go, how can this possibly be happening in our country? And if 60 Minutes is right, the only crime the other folks have committed is actually coming into this country illegally. And so, this is a pivotal moment about the morality of America. And I read the Justice Department filing today before the Supreme Court, just a short one-page almost filing. And they're kind of arguing, well, we can't possibly do this, but yet they swooped him up and deported him in a pretty short period of time. And they're arguing that he's being detained by a sovereign nation, well, at the request of our country. And so much of what they're saying rings hollow. And I think it is a real challenge to our system of government and our due process if it's not corrected immediately.
Anthony, you've been nominated to be Inspector General for the Labor Department, potentially joining the administration. I do not want to put you in any hot water with your potential new boss, but I want to get your take on how you think the administration is handling this, how it's fighting the idea of guaranteeing Abrego Garcia's return, even after they admitted in court that it was an error.
Well, I think that this is one of those situations where I think everyone on this panel agrees, and I agree wholeheartedly with John. You know, this is a nightmare of an investigator or a prosecutor. You want to get the right guy or girl that committed the crime. And in this case, we should be doing a better job investigating and identifying those individuals who are here illegally, who are members of violent gangs, who are members of these now terrorist organizations. But we have to do it the right way. And we have to make sure that the information that we have is credible. It has to be validated. And before we are deporting people out of this country, we have to make sure that it's right.
All right, agreement across the board on the panel. Much appreciated. Mike Muse, John Katko, Heidi Heitkamp, and Anthony D'Esposito. Thank you all. Still to come in our last call, set the clock and leave it. President Trump renewing a push to flip the switch for good.
The news never stops. We are here in Israel, a nation at war.
We appeared to be gunfire. The former president rushed off the stage.
Hurricane Helene ravaging the coastline of Florida.
It's moving really fast, screaming across the state.
And that's why ABC News Live never stops.
Taking you to the center of the story.
As news breaks live.
We hear the small arms fire around us. We're right on the border between Ukraine and Russia.
ABC News Live is there for you at the start of your day, all morning live.
ABC News Live, right there, as events unfold across the day.
ABC News Live, breaking down the day's top stories.
Lyle and Eric Menendez, there is new evidence in this case.
ABC News Live Prime going there, wherever the story is.
Are you going to build it back up?
And ABC News Live, lighting up the weekend.
With breaking news and all the latest pop headlines.
Happy Oscars Sunday.
A lot to watch for tonight.
ABC News Live.
Because the news never stops.
Now you can listen to a podcast version of 2020, available free wherever you listen.
Sunday morning, the president's sudden reversal on tariffs. What will it really mean for the economy? Trump's Commerce Secretary and Senator Elizabeth Warren respond. Plus, Stephen A. Smith on why he's leaving the door open for a presidential run. Sunday morning on ABC's This Week.
Tell me what you see. Experience Mufasa the Lion King on Disney+.
Something beautiful awaits you. I feel it in here.
I'm Tucker. I have a secret, Mufasa. I always wanted a brother.
Can I make one suggestion? Less drama, more meerkat.
It is your time, Mufasa.
Disney's Mufasa the Lion King, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG.
Wednesday night on ABC. If you saw someone stealing a laptop.
Oh, yeah, they got eyes on him.
Right in front of you. What would you do?
Hey, what's up?
No, it's my girlfriend's, man.
No, it's not. Go ahead and leave that.
That's her stuff? But you don't know her. Like, why are you being a hero?
Wow.
And just wait till you see what she does.
Okay, here we go.
To this sneaky thief. So,
what would you do?
All new Wednesday night on ABC.
Gilead doesn't need to be beaten. It needs to be broken. God has a plan for me.
Punish the wicked!
Gilead shall endure.
What's happening?
Rebellion. If we let them get away, it's over.
Rise up and fight for your freedom!
ABC's David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. More Americans watch World News Tonight with David Muir than any other newscast. You're watching America's #1 streaming news, ABC News Live. Breaking news, exclusives, live reporting across the globe. keep streaming with ABC News Live.
I am somewhat disappointed in your excellent remarks that we did not get you belting out the chorus of shares if we could turn back time.
I told you, it is something that peps us up.
American people are sick and tired of changing the clocks twice a year. It's confusing, unnecessary, and completely outdated.
All right, let's talk about it. Time for our last call. Lawmakers debating President Trump's renewed push to end the switch to daylight saving time and keep the time set in the spring. In a post on his social media platform, Trump calls on lawmakers in Congress to, quote, push hard for more daylight at the end of the day. He called the annual time change a, quote, very costly event. So let's bring back in the panel, Mike, Heidi, John, and Anthony. Heidi, some Republican allies on the Hill are backing Trump on his push to, quote, lock the clock, but this has stalled in Congress before. What's different this time?
I don't know what the difference is, but you would think that this president who started a trade war this week would have something more important to talk about. You know, Indiana and Arizona set their own time. We have cities who are in mountain time normally who have said that we want to be in central. Let the states decide. Why are we even talking about this? And I want to make this point. In North Dakota, Williston, North Dakota is on the edge of the central time zone. In the summer, you can golf at midnight. And so it really should be up to the states to decide what time zone they want to be in and what they want to do with daylight savings.
That still wouldn't make me a better golfer. Anthony, is there an economic justification to ditch the switch? Which industries would benefit?
I'm not really sure. I mean, to be honest with you, I could care less either way. There's not enough time in the day, whether you change the clocks or not. But I will tell you that there's going to be a pushback. I represented one of the largest Jewish communities in the country, and there is a pretty big pushback from the Jews with regards to changing the clocks. Because of the Sabbath on Friday? Correct.
Okay. John, what are the consequences of making a permanent clock change?
I'm not sure, but I just want to channel my inner Elton John and say, don't let the sun go down on me. Let's just try going with the way it is now. A little lighter, a little later. Maybe it'll lift people's moods and maybe have a little bit longer happy hours and everyone will be happier because of it. So let's give it a whirl.
I did not have Cher and Elton John on my bingo card when we set this segment up. Mike, you get the last call. What is your take? What would you like to see happen? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I have no Cher or Elton John references for you, although I like both of them. I'm for getting away with it. There is nothing more depressing than at 3 o'clock in the fall, the sun has already set and it's already dark outside. It's absolutely depressing. It is the worst time period for me. And so I'm excited. Let's get rid of it once and for all, and let's enjoy a little bit more time in the sun.
Yeah, Heidi, I hear you. There are way more important things to be talking about, but just a personal opinion, it is depressing.